voice, not just reading it. Kate, get out there and be bold and proud. With your voice, loud and proud, right? So let's start with Old Waldo's part there. We're gonna skip the intro for just now so we can do a couple sound checks.
Should we start? All right. What was his name?
Whose name?
I've forgotten the name of my best friend.
Did you ever have a best friend?
The boy who put the gloves on the chickens.
Henry.
I keep thinking his name was David.
David Henry, what have you gone and done?
I have not gone and done anything, Mother. I have gone and not done something, which very much needed the not doing.
Oh, good heavens. Louisa, David Henry's gone and not done something again.
Henry David.
David Henry, you're being strange again.
He was strange. I almost understood him.
Sometimes. Sometimes I don't know who you are.
I'm myself, Mother. If I'm not, who will be?
When you're baptized, they tell you who you are.
I wasn't listening.
At the christening, you didn't cry once. Not once. Reverend Ripley said how remarkable it was for a baby not to cry at a christening.
You think I knew what they were doing to me?
I suppose not.
That's why I didn't cry.
He was the saddest happy man I ever knew.
The happiest sad man, I think.
He worked on Sundays and took the rest of the week off.
Staring at his umbrella.
Who's this?
It's your umbrella.
Oh, yes. Yes, yes.
I wouldn't mind your being peculiar, but do you have to work at it so hard, David Henry?
Henry David.
Getting everything backward. How did you learn your letters?
Must the alphabet begin with A? Why not with Z? Z is a very sociable letter, like the path of a man wandering in the woods. A is braced and solid. A is a house. I prefer Z. Z, Y, X, W, V, U, T, S.
Oh dear.
Or mix them up. Start with H. Start with Q.
Waldo, younger and straighter, is at the climax of an address.
Cast conformity behind you.
Cast conformity behind you.
You know what David Henry's trouble is, John?
What?
He keeps casting conformity behind him.
What the hell? He went to Harvard.
Never say
Harvard? I'm sorry, Mother. I'll never say it again. Now, here's a rare specimen.
There is an infinitude in the private man. If a single man plants himself indomitably on his instincts, and thereby the huge world will come around him.
Henry and John, the amber of sunny fields.
And thereby.
Is this one wild or tame? Wild, I think. Known to haunt woods and ponds. Dull plunge. But a wise bird. Amaranus something or another. I have it. It's the species' brother.
John.
Welcome home. How's your overstuffed brain?
I've forgotten everything already.
At least you have a god diploma.
No, I don't.
You don't?
They charge you $1, and I wouldn't pay it.
But think how Mama would love it. Your diploma from Harvard, framed on the wall.
Let every sheep keep his own skin.
John gives him a disparaging shove on the shoulder, and they tussle like boys.
John, I got more from one man, not even a professor, than I learned in 4 years of academic droning and snorting at Cambridge. And the strangest thing, he wasn't a stranger. I knew him. I'd seen him. You know him. You walk by him on the street, you say hello. He's just a man, just a neighbor. But this man speaks and a hush falls over all of Harvard. And there's a light about him that comes out of his face. But it's not the light of one man. I swear to you, John, it's the light of all mankind.
Idolater.
Is this the earth?
I hope so.
No. It's you, and I, and God, and Mr. Emerson, and the universal mind.
And Aunt Louisa?
Yes, and Louisa, too. False teeth and all. It's isn't easy to think of Aunt Louisa swimming in the Milky Way, but that's the way of things, I'm sure.
And if she can't keep afloat, you can dive in and save her. Now, you've turned your backside on Harvard. What do you plan to do?
Well, I think I'll think for a while. That'll be a change from college.
But what do you want to be? Have you any idea?
Yes, I know exactly. I want to be as much as possible like Ralph Waldo Emerson.
The light rises on Waldo and Lydia. He has the stature of a younger man. He leaps through a manuscript.
Your lecture was splendid, dear.
I think I read one paragraph twice. I lost my place.
Nobody noticed you.
If nobody noticed, then nobody was listening.
They thought you did it for emphasis.
Did you see that one film? In the third row, with his eyes closed. You don't think he was sleeping, do you?
Concentrating, dear.
My friend,
Huh? What?
every human being has an inalienable right to snore, provided it does not interfere with the inalienable right of other men to sleep. I couldn't hear what's going on.
Nothing goes on in here. Night half the time, then day, then night again. Don't make much difference.
Shh. Did you hear that?
I didn't hear nothing. Just a bird.
Just a bird. Can you make a cry like that? Or feed on flowers? Or carry the sky on your wings? Friend, you and I can't even fly.
I missed part of that. Guess I'm not full awake.
Nobody is. If I ever met a man who was completely awake, how could I look him in the face?
What do you do to get yourself locked up?
What do you think?
Well, a man who talks educated like you, he can't have done something small. Must be murder or worse.
That's what I've done by their lights. Out there in the dark. Murder or worse. No, I refuse to commit murder. That's why I'm here.
Who they want you to kill?
Mexico.
Who's that?
That's where the war is.
What war?
Friend, this cell may be the only place in the United States that's at peace.
Who's fighting him?
I'm not fighting anybody.
Neither am I.
But we've got a president who went out and boomed up a war all by himself. With no help from Congress and less help from me.
First I heard of it. Which side are you on? Are you against them?
Then
Or are you one of them?
I'm one of me.
That don't make no sense.
Hear that? Old friend of mine. He's a night flyer. Doesn't have to see where.
I hate you, sweater.
Center is the skeletal suggestion of a prison cell. 2 crude cots, a chair, a wooden box which serves as a clothes locker. An imaginary window downstage looks out on Concord Square. Surrounding the cell is the sky over Concord. There are night bird sounds, distant. 2 men lie on the cots, motionless. Striped moonlight through the prison bars fall across Henry, but the man on the other cot is in shadow. Time and space are awash here. Into a weak winter light, unrelated to the cell, an old man enters on the arm of his wife. He walks with studied erectness, using an umbrella as a cane. The wife is handsomely patrician. The old man has a shawl over his shoulders, a muffler around his neck. He stops.
What was his name?
Whose name?
I've forgotten the name of my best friend.
Did you ever have a best friend?
The boy who put the gloves on the chickens.
Henry?
I keep thinking his name was David.
David Henry! What have you gone and done?
I have not gone and done anything, Mother. I have gone and not done something, which very much needed the not doing.
Oh, good heavens. Louisa, David Henry's gone and not done something again.
Henry David.
David Henry, you're being strange again.
He was strange. I almost understood him.
Sometimes.
Sometimes I don't know who you are.
I'm myself, Mother. If I'm not, who will be?
When you're baptized, they tell you who you are.
I wasn't listening.
At the christening, you didn't cry once. Not once. Reverend Ripley said how remarkable it was for a baby not to cry at a christening.
You think I knew what they were doing to me?
I suppose not.
That's why I didn't cry.
He was the saddest happy man I knew.
The happiest sad man, I think.
He worked on Sundays, took the rest of the week off.
Staring at his umbrella.
Who's this?
It's your umbrella.
Oh, yes. Yes, yes.
I wouldn't mind your being peculiar, but do you have to work at it so hard, David Henry?
Henry David.
Getting everything backward. How did you learn your letters?
Must the alphabet begin with A? Why not with Z? Z is a very sociable letter, like the path of a man wandering in the woods. A is braced and solid. A is a house. I prefer Z. ZYXWVUTS.
Oh dear.
Or mix them up. Start with H. Start with Q.
Waldo, younger and straighter, is at the climax of an address.
Cast conformity behind you.
Cast conformity behind him.
You know what David Henry's trouble is, John?
What?
He keeps casting conformity behind him.
What the hell? He's been to Harvard.
Never say.
Harvard? Sorry, Mother. I'll never say it again. Now, here's a rare specimen.
There is an infinitude in the private man. If a single man plants himself indomitably on his instincts, and thereby the huge world will come round him.
Henry and John, the amber of sunny fields.
And there abide.
Is this one wild or tame? Wild, I think. Known to haunt the woods and ponds. Dull plumage. Oh, but a wise bird. Americanus to some, something or another. I have it. This is the species brother.
John.
Welcome home. How is your overstuffed brain?
I've forgotten everything already.
At least you got a diploma.
No, I don't.
Why not?
They charge you $1, and I wouldn't pay it.
But think how Mom would love it. Your diploma from Harvard hanging on the wall.
Let every sheep keep his own skin.
John gives him a disparaging shove on the shoulder, and they tussle like boys.
John, I got more from one man, not even a professor, than I learned in 4 years of academic droning and snorting at Cambridge. And the strangest thing, he wasn't a stranger. I knew him. I'd seen him. You know him. You walk by him on the street, you say hello. He's just a man, just a neighbor. But this man speaks and a hush falls over all of Harvard. And there's a light about it that comes out of his face. But it's not the light of one man. I swear to you, John, it's the light of all mankind.
Idolater.
Is this the earth?
I sure hope so.
No, it's you, and I, and God, and Mr. Emerson, and the universal mind.
And Aunt Louisa?
Yes, Aunt Louisa too, false teeth and all. It isn't easy to think of Aunt Louisa swimming in the Milky Way, but that's the way of things, I'm sure of it.
And if she can't keep afloat, you can dive and save her. Now you've turned your backside on Harvard, what do you plan to do?
Well, I think I'll think for a while. That'll be a change from college.
But what do you want to be? Do you have any idea?
Yes, I know exactly. I want to be as much as possible like Ralph Waldo Emerson.
The light rises on Waldo and Lydia. He has the stature of a younger man. He leaps through a manuscript.
Your lecture was splendid, dear.
I think I read one paragraph twice. I lost my place.
Nobody noticed, dear.
If nobody noticed, then nobody was listening.
They thought you did it for emphasis.
Did you see that one fellow in the third row with his eyes closed? You don't think he was sleeping, do you?
Concentrating, dear.
My friend,
Why?
every human being has an inalienable right to snore, provided it does not interfere with the inalienable rights of other men to snore. I couldn't hear what's going on.
Nothing goes on in here. Night half the time, then day, then night again. Don't make much difference.
Shh! Did you hear that?
I didn't hear nothing, just a bird.
Just a bird. Can you make a cry like that? Or feed on flowers? Or carry the sky on your wings? Friend, you and I can't even fly.
I missed part of that. Guess I'm not full awake.
Nobody is. If I ever met a man who was completely awake, how could I look him in the face?
What'd you do to get yourself locked up?
What do you think?
Well, a man who talks educated like you, he can't have done something small. It must be murder or worse.
That's what I've done. By their lights, out there in the dark, murder or worse. No, I refuse to commit murder. That's why I'm here.
Who they want you to kill?
Mexico.
Who's that?
That's where the war is.
What word?
Friend, this cell may be the only place in the United States that's at peace.
Who's fighting who?
I'm not fighting anybody.
Neither am I.
But we've got a president who went out and boomed up a war all by himself, with no help from Congress and less help from me.
First I heard of it. Which side are you on? Are you against them?
Them?
Or are you one of them?
I'm one of me.
That don't make no sense.
Hear that? Old friend of mine, he's a night flyer. Doesn't have to see where he's going. Or maybe he can see what we can't. Or hear. He's headed for the pond. Did you ever make friends with a loon?
Not till tonight.
Anytime you hear a man called loony, just remember that's a great compliment to the man and a great disrespect to the loon. A loon doesn't wage war. His government is perfect, being non-existent. He is the world's best fisherman and completely in control of his senses. Thank you. What are you here for, friend?
On waiting trial.
What did you do?
Nothing.
What do they say you did?
Burned down a barn. But I didn't do it. All I did was snuck in to get some sleep, and I guess the sparks from my pipe fell into the hay, and
Tell him that.
the tone time is the trial. That's what I've been waiting here for about 3 months.
You've been locked up here for 3 entire months waiting for a chance to say you're innocent?
That's about it.
It's outrageous. Staples. Sam Staples.
Now, don't make a ruckus. I'm not a troublemaker. I just want to earn my keep, make a little tobacco money, and get along.
Get along. Those words turn my stomach. Mister, what's your name?
Bailey,
A figure crosses the village square.
Mr. Bailey. Listen. What do you hear?
nothing, except footsteps.
Footsteps of what?
A man, I guess?
Where's he walking?
How would I know?
I know where he's going. He's going where he's supposed to be. So he can be where he's supposed to be at the time he's supposed to be there. Why? So he'll be liked. My God, a whole country of us who only want to be liked. But to be liked, you must never disagree. And if you never disagree, it's like only breathing in and never breathing out. A man can suffocate on courtesy. What if God wanted to be liked instead of loved? What if the Almighty delayed every decision until he was sure it would please the majority? Great whales might have offended some legislature, which God knew would rise up someday to speak endlessly of the common good. Common good be damned. Give me something magnificently uncommon.
I don't understand what you're saying, but it's a marvel to hear the way the words roll out.
I'll put it in plain Anglo-Saxon, Mr. Bailey. You're an uncommon man. You were protesting against the barn builder who shut you in with clabbered and daily working hours.
Don't say that to no judge. If I burned down a bar, they'd throw me in jail.
Friend, where do you think you are? You might as well have done the deed you didn't do.
But I'm not a man who goes around burning things down.
Good for you. Fire inside burns hotter than fire outside. A man's conviction is stronger than a flame or a bullet or a rock. I wonder if they'll keep me here for 3 months, waiting trial. Who will weed my bean patch? Of course, I might get some brain work done.
It feels good to start to talk to a smart fella. I bet you can even write.
Sometimes.
I wish I was a writer. If If I could write my name, I'd die happy.
Then you do better than most writers. Bailey's not a hard name.
I know the start of it. It's the alphabet backwards.
I'll teach you the rest.
Oh, David Henry's an expert at getting things backward.
B, A.
That's as far as I know.
Who is Bailey?
I am.
That's your next letter. I. I am I.
How do you write?
It's as simple as a beanpole, straight up and down. B-A-I. There, you're halfway through your name already. So you turn the corner, like this. That's an L. B-A-I, turn the corner. Now here's a rough one. How much hair you got?
Enough to comb.
That's it. Bailey needs a comb to comb his hair. There it is. E. And when you're all through, you want a nice tree to sit under. So you make a beanpole with branches on the top. That's Y. And there's your name.
Jehoshaphat, you make it simple. B, A, beanpole, turn the corner, comb, tree.
You've got it. Now you can write your name. Bailey.
I'll leave this jail an educated man. You must be a teacher.
Being a teacher is like being in jail. Once it's on your record, you can never get rid of it.
Henry becomes the young schoolmaster, addressing a classroom full of unseen children.
Students, hold your hand up in front of you, like this. Is there anything between my nose and my fingers? Nothing? My young friends, there are millions of tiny dancing particles whizzing back and forth, running into each other and bouncing off. Stars, worlds, planets, universes, right here. And now I give you a mystery. How do we know that these particles are there?
How indeed?
We have a surprise guest in the classroom today. The chairman of the Concord School Committee, Deacon Nehemiah Ball.
I am not here to interrupt your scheduled curriculum.
Thank you, sir. These particles,
Just an observer, that's all I am.
scientists
Try to
have...
forget I'm in the room.
We'll try, sir. Now, in recent years, scientists have
How is
discovered...
it that I see no school books open in here?
We're huckleberrying, sir.
Your what?
We're scrambling for ideas the way we hunt for huckleberries in the woods.
That's no way to learn anything. All they need to know is clearly spelled out in the approved school text.
All, Deacon Ball? Young Potter here just asked me if I really think there is a God.
Young heathen!
He simply asked why. Since we never see God, should we believe he exists?
Matters of theology, boy, are discussable with your spiritual leader.
Potter has already asked his spiritual leader, but the Reverend, whoever it is, called him an atheist for committing the primary sin of doubt. Mr. Potter, I'll try to answer you just as I once replied to the same question put to me by an annoying, inquisitive young man. Myself,
Will this be a theological opinion?
it will be a human opinion. If I go into a shop and see all the nicely finished wheels, gears, pinions, springs of a watch lying spread out on a bench, then later find them put together exactly and working in unison to move the hands across a dial and show the passage of time, do I believe that these pieces have been flung together by blind chance? Certainly not. I believe that somebody with thought and plan and power has been there, and intelligence.
And intelligence governs the universe. And in this worship service, we shall celebrate our gratitude to that intelligence. Let us pray.
Nor do I think that the sun rising above Concord this morning was an accident. I hope you saw it, Mr. Potter, and you too, Deacon Ball. It was a brilliant sunrise. We're all related, Mr. Potter, and interrelated to a universal mind.
That's atheism.
I've often wondered, Deacon Ball, if atheism might even be popular with God himself.
Transcendental blasphemy.
The universal mind is the divine part of all of us. And we partake, knowingly or not, in the wonder of that universal mind.
Does all this make any sense to you, Potter?
It makes no sense to me. You will teach the textbook, sir.
I find your textbooks somewhat behind the century.
You find them so?
Yes, sir, I do.
And you chose to ignore the books which have been proscribed to you by the school committee.
My students have the ache of curiosity, which I'm afraid your proscriptions will not cure.
Silence! You will show respect for your elders, and you, Schoolmaster Thorough, will teach strictly according to the text. No huckleberrying.
Class, you've heard the deacon. We shall stick to the approved books. Your eyes must not wander from the page to look at a leaf or an unauthorized butterfly. You must not listen to a cricket or smell a flower that has been approved, that has not been approved by the school committee. You better close both ears and hold your nose, though you may have to grow an extra hand to do it.
Silence! Is this the gratitude you show to the municipality which feeds your minds? You will show decent respect. Make them be silent, sir. The lack of order in this classroom will most certainly be reported to the full school committee, which I intend to call into this extraordinary session tonight.
Henry, give the man a penny apology. 2 cents worth of humility.
Why should I?
So they won't cut you off from the class. If you're stubborn, what will happen when Potter asks questions?
Deacon Ball, I'm sorry that you've had a rather ragged time in my classroom today. I have intended no offense to you or the school committee.
Well, we've come to expect a certain degree of unruliness from Harvard men. Your apology shows that you recognize this flaw in your character. But your students don't have Harvard as an excuse. They must be punished.
I shall lecture them.
You will flog them.
What?
You will flog them for showing irreverence to authority.
No, sir.
I beg your pardon.
I said no. I do not believe in corporal punishment.
What you believe is irrelevant. Your opinion as a teacher has not been asked for. I direct you to flog.
Why?
It is policy. Offending students are whipped.
And what would that teach them?
Obedience, an essential quality in subordinates, whether they are pupils in a classroom or soldiers on a battlefield.
They are not training to be soldiers, not my students.
These young people are not yours. They have been sent to you by the tax-paying citizens of Concord who expect you to abide by the rules laid down by the school administrators. Perform your duties, Schoolmaster Thoreau, if you expect to retain your post in this community.
Six of you, any 6, come forward. It doesn't matter who. You are all of you, accused of the damning crimes of laughter, curiosity, and candid self-expression. Bigelow, Coleman, Loring, McLean, Henderson, Potter.
I congratulate you. I'm happy to be able to report to the school committee that Schoolmaster Thoreau
Has administered the sacrament of the schoolroom, and he resigns as a teacher in the public schools of Concord.
But I cannot comply with custom. I cannot perform the rites required of me by this congregation. For I have searched the scriptures and can find nothing which calls on us to repeat endlessly the ceremony of the Last Supper. Intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, I cannot administer this sacrament. So I resign my position as pastor of the Second Unitarian Church of Boston.
I shall never teach again.
I shall never preach again.
Have you ever noticed, John, how much Mr. Emerson talks like our David Henry?
A school doesn't need a school committee, or trustees, or governors, or lumber, or approved textbooks. All the school needs is a mind that sends and a mind that receives.
Nobody can teach anybody anything.
Of course not. Teach them how to teach themselves.
Our own school, John. No buildings. Break out of the classroom prison. All we need is sky. The universe can be our classroom, John. The great vast world of the Concord countryside. Students, watch, notice, observe. See what is happening around you? Did you ever have any idea so much was going on in Haywood's meadow? I'll wager even Haywood doesn't know. The cypripedium is already in flower. Last year it didn't bloom until tomorrow. Do you know how few people know what we've just discovered? Stumbling on the first morning of a new flower. Most of Concord is too busy eating meals and going to the post office. Oh, I would be sad and sorry to remember that I once was in the world and noticed nothing remarkable. Not so much as a prince in disguise. John, are you a prince in disguise?
Of course.
Wouldn't it be dreadful if I had lived in the golden age as a hired man, or visited Olympus and fell asleep after dinner, and completely missed the conversation of the gods? Or imagine living in Judea 1,800 years ago and never knowing that Jesus was my contemporary? What are you doing?
I'm writing
What?
what you've been saying, so I'll remember.
Don't just remember what I said, remember what I'm talking about. Who's that?
It's a girl.
One of ours? Or, does she belong to us? Is she one of our students?
I wouldn't mind. Would you?
Excuse me, miss, but I think you're a little old to be a member of this class.
Henry, a young lady's never too old for anything.
It's just that, well, most of our students are 12 or thereabouts, and you're, well, not exactly thereabouts.
Does it make so much of a difference, really? I just want to come along and listen and watch. I won't be any bother or ask any questions.
Why not?
My little brother is the only one who has the right to ask questions. He's paying tuition.
You're Sewell.
How'd you know?
If I can spot a cypripedium, I can spot a Sewell.
There's only one rule in this class. No rules. So, of course you're welcome to come along. Anytime you'd like.
What about tuition?
You've already paid it. If you were ugly, we'd charge you. Or 12. Or thereabouts.
You're John Thoreau, and you're the Thunderclap, Henry.
What previous educational experience have you had?
Finishing school.
Dear God.
I survived.
I warn you, Miss Sewell, that John and I are not finishers. Nobody leaves us with a smooth surface. We rough up the consciousness, scrape off the mind of young minds.
Please, Mr. Thoreau, go back to your students. I've interrupted.
Of course you have. Every creative event that ever happened in the world was an interruption. Unexpected. Unplanned for. The only people who ever get any place interesting are the people who get lost. That's why the planets are so much better company than the stars. They keep wandering back and forth across the sky, and you never know where you're going to find them.
I need to hold you. We're out of time.
Of the gods. Or imagine living in Judea 1,800 years ago and never knowing that Jesus was my contemporary. What are you doing?
I'm writing
What?
what you've been saying, so I'll remember.
Don't just remember what I said, remember what I'm talking about. Who's that?
It's a girl.
One of ours? Or, does she belong to us? Is she one of our students?
I wouldn't mind. Would you?
Excuse me, miss, but I think you're a little old to be a member of this class.
Henry, a young lady's never too old for anything.
It's just that, well, most of our students are 12 or thereabouts, and you're, well, not exactly thereabouts.
Does it make so much difference, really? I just want to come along and listen and watch. I won't be any bother or ask any questions.
Why not?
My little brother is the only one who has the right to ask questions.
It sounds good. Yeah.
Why was there a train? great.
You didn't know they just built train tracks. For sure, that's so rude. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
This is something that's what
Tonight the Rose spent in jail.
Wouldn't it be dreadful if I had lived in the golden age as a hired man, or visited Olympus and fell asleep after dinner and completely missed the conversation of the gods, or imagine living in Judea 1,800 years ago and never knowing that Jesus was my contemporary? What are you doing?
I'm writing
What?
what you've been saying, so I'll remember.
Don't just remember what I said, remember what I'm talking about. Who's that?
It's a girl.
One of ours? I mean, does she belong to us? Is she one of our students?
I wouldn't mind. Would you?
Excuse me, miss, but I think you're a little old to be a member of this class.
Henry, a young lady's never too old for anything.
It's just that, well, most of our students are 12 or thereabouts, and you're, well, not exactly thereabouts.
Does it make so much difference, really? I just want to come along and listen and watch. I won't be any bother or ask any questions.
Why not?
My little brother is the only one who has the right to ask questions. He's paying tuition.
You're Sewell.
How'd you know?
If I can spot a cyberpedium, I can spot a Sewell.
There's only one rule in this class. No rules. So, of course, you're welcome to come along anytime you'd like.
Well, what about tuition?
You've already paid it. If you were ugly, we'd make you pay. Or 12. Or thereabouts.
You're John Thoreau. And you're the thundercloud, Henry.
What previous educational experience have you had?
Finishing school.
Dear God.
I survived.
I warn you, Miss Sewell, that John and I are not finishers. Nobody leaves us with a smooth surface. We rough up the consciousness, scrape the moss off young minds.
Please, Mr. Thoreau, go back to your students. I've interrupted.
Of course you have. Every creative event that ever happened in the world was an interruption. Unexpected, unplanned for. The only people who ever get any place interesting are the people who get lost. That's why the planets are so much better company than the stars. They keep wandering back and forth across the sky, and you never know where you're going to find them. Students, we have another Sewell, Edmund's sister. You have a first name?
Ellen.
Ellen Sewell. Our textbook, Miss Sewell, is Haywood's Meadow, approved by the Almighty, if not by the school committee. In this single pasture, there are 300 distinct and separate varieties of grass. I know. I have cataloged them myself. You look down and you say, that's grass. Grass is grass. Ridiculous. You have missed the splendid variety of the show. There's camel grass, candy grass, cloud grass, cowquake, mouse, barley, foxtail, London lace, devil's knitting needle, feathertop, buffalo grass, timothy, and barnyard grass, and clovers enough to sweeten the bellies of all the lambs since creation. John, look at this. What would you say it is?
I've never seen it before.
It's Koi Lacrima Jobi, which means Job's tears. I've never seen a specimen here. Students, I beg your pardon, we are in the midst of 301 varieties of God-made grasses. You're writing again.
Just Job's tears.
Why?
When you go to school, you're supposed to write things down, so you remember what you've been taught.
Then it's the notebook that does the remembering, not you.
You keep a notebook.
I also wear a ridiculous straw hat. That doesn't mean that you should wear a ridiculous straw hat. You look ridiculous in it. Nature didn't stuff this meadow full of identical blades of grass, each an imitation of another. They're all different. Follow the leaders, not the game we're playing here. Young lady, be your own man.
Henry, don't shout at her.
I won't take notes, I promise you, not one.
Why not? If you want to take notes, go ahead. But not because I'm doing it or because I told you to. Miss Sewell, I want you to be yourself, not your idea of what you think is somebody else's idea of yourself. Perhaps, students, Miss Sewell's interruption has given us the essence of the textbook we call Haywood's Meadow. The multiple grasses beneath our feet, the infinity of the sky above us. And if I have jotted down a note about a cloud flame or about sunlight or on bird wings, don't you write just because I am writing. Don't ape me or copy me. If you wish merely to listen to the sky, or smell the sky, or feel the sky with your fingertips, do that too. Because I think there should be as many different persons in the world as possible. So each of you, be very careful to find out and pursue your own way.
Bailey, Bailey, Bailey. I can write. Watch me do it all by myself.
Don't learn to write your name.
I already learned.
Oh, unlearn it. Writing your name can lead to writing sentences. And the next thing you'll be doing is writing paragraphs and then books. And then you'll be in as much trouble as I am.
You write books.
Yes.
If my mother lived to see me sitting in the same jail cell with a man who writes a book, ooh, she'd be proud of me. Tell me something. Do you make up all the words yourself?
Oh, now and then I stick in a word or two that's been used before. The base trick is to pick the right words and put them in the right order.
Must be a fortune in it. I hear tell some books cost more than $1.
But they haven't been perfected yet. They've got to put legs on them. As it is now, a book just sits in a shop and has to wait for somebody with legs on to come in and find it.
Oh?
My first book, also my last book, was a very stationary model. The publisher brought out 1,000 copies and gave me the privilege of paying for the printing. So all the copies that didn't sell belonged to the author. They came running home to me, legs or not. Right now, Mr. Bailey, I have a library of nearly 900 volumes, 700 of which I wrote myself. My friend, give up your literary career.
Suddenly, Henry takes the lockbox from the cell, flips it over, open side up, and drags it down onto the thrust. John comes on, helping him with the boat.
John, today I thought we'd make a complete circuit of the pond. If this boat isn't large enough for the whole class, I'll take the first trip, you take the second.
It'll be large enough.
We lost another pupil?
No, we lost 2.
Good. Education should not be a mass process.
With us it isn't.
The whole idea of our school is that the size of the classroom grows larger and larger.
While the size of the class grows smaller and smaller.
How many do we actually have left?
Mother's got the name of a new family who moved to Concord.
How many children?
Be patient, Henry. The wife is pregnant.
Where are you going?
Back to the pencil factory.
Why?
It might be a little overpowering to have twice as many teachers as pupils.
Only one left.
Mr. Thoreau,
Good morning.
I came to tell you that you shouldn't wait for Edmund. Just go ahead and start the class without him. He won't be coming today.
I hope he's not ill.
No, it's my father.
He's ill?
Not exactly. Father's worried because he thinks Edmund's learning too much.
That's good news. I thought Edmund was a bit sluggish myself, compared with the other students. That is, when we had other students to compare him with. Well, tell your father not to worry. I'll slow down with Edmund.
I'm afraid Father doesn't want him to come to your school at all anymore.
Oh, your father's opposed to knowledge?
No, he's opposed to transcendentalists. That's what he says you are. And your brother, too. A whole family afflicted with transcendentalism.
What the devil does your father think transcendentalism is?
I asked him, and he tried to explain it to me, and the more he explained, the less I understood it. Father has a gift that way.
A born non-teacher. Miss Sewell, get into the boat.
Oh?
Since I find myself unexpectedly unemployed, I shall take you on a voyage of exploration. No tuition charge.
Henry helps her onto the boat.
Keep your eye on the line between the water and the sky. I'll row.
He pantomimes, pushing the boat off. With no visible oars, he rows.
There used to be a row of cedars on that far shore. But we have lost that line with Lebanon.
Where have they gone?
Into firewood, and up in smoke, into houses. Do you know what we're doing, Miss Sewell? We're poisoning paradise, shearing off the woods, making the poor earth bald before her time.
But we have to have houses, Mr. Thoreau. Or should we all live in caves?
What's the use of a house if you haven't got a tolerable planet to put it on? Did you know that trees cry out in pain when they're cut? I've heard them. But what bells in town toll for them? We prosecute men for abusing children. We ought to prosecute them for maltreating nature.
My father says God put everything here for men to use.
Oh? Did the good Father put us here to root and snort and glut ourselves like pigs? No, the pigs are better. Pigs may be the most respectable part of the population. At least they consume the rubble instead of contributing to it. Hear that? There goes a carload of two-legged pigs off to market, emasculating the landscape with their tracks.
I rather like the railroad. Far better than horse and carriage.
Why?
It's smoother and much faster.
And dirtier, and uglier. Thank God men haven't learned to fly. They lay waste the sky as well as the earth, chop down the clouds.
Is that in transcendentalism, Mr. Thoreau?
No. Yes, it is, in a way. Take your father. Do you love the man?
Of course.
Why?
He's my father.
Is he beautiful?
Dear me, no.
Does he create beauty? Paint, play a musical instrument?
No.
Can he fly like that bird? Or swim like that fellow down there?
He can swim a little. He used to, but not like that fish.
Nevertheless, you love him.
Of course.
Your love transcends what your father is and what he is not. Every consciousness is capable of going beyond itself. Damn it, I've lost you. Put your hand in the water. Can you touch the bottom?
It's too deep.
For the length of your arm, not for the length of your mind. Miss Sewell, why should your reach stop with your skin? When you transcend the limits of yourself, you can cease merely living and begin to be.
I don't mind living.
But being is so much more interesting.
I'm a little bit afraid just to be.
Think how free it is if you're never afraid.
Aren't you ever afraid?
Yes. I'm afraid that I might live right through this moment and only live. Look at you and only see you. Oh, it doesn't hurt at all to look at you, believe me. But what if there's more and I miss it?
Miss what?
What if all that is beautiful in women, in the world, or worlds, what if all of it is torn up in this face here, in front of me, and I am empty enough to think I am merely seeing one face?
That's transcendentalism.
If you like.
I don't think that's wicked. I think it's rather nice.
Who says it's wicked?
Father. Last night at the dinner table, Edmund gave Father a sermon on the oversoul.
Good for Edmund. Most dining rooms are tabernacles where only the father gets the pulpit.
Oh, Father cut it right back. He was still shouting at breakfast. He broke off with an incomplete sentence last night and picked it right up this morning at forage.
Well, I'm a little older than Edmund, but I have yet to hear the first syllable of valuable advice from my seniors. We are born as innocents. We are polluted by advice. Here is life in front of us, like the surface of this pond, inviting us to sail on. A voyage, an experiment, waiting to be performed. Has your father tried it before? But that's no help to me or to you. Keep your innocence, Edmund.
Ellen,
Ellen. Yes. You look very much like, you know, the eyes. You both listen with your eyes.
I have to go back.
Why?
Father expects me.
Surprising.
Edmund did. He's braver than I am.
Stand up to your father.
He stands. The boat rocks.
Please, Mr. Thoreau, not in the boat.
Oh,
He sits.
Will you row me back to shore, please?
no. Listen to me. If I were to say, I love you, Sewell. Miss Sewell. Ellen. You wouldn't think much of it as a statement of fact if you knew it was just an echo, a mouthing of something somebody told me to say. Some father. But if I say I love you, out of myself, out of my own experience or lack of it, out of my innocence, then you and God had better believe me.
Mom, Henry's in love.
Who's he in love with?
A girl.
Thank God.
I'm not one of your fish, nor one of your birds, Mr. Thoreau, so I can neither swim nor fly back to dry land. I must simply sit here and hope that you are a gentleman enough to row me ashore.
Miss Sewell, I apologize. And I'll row you to shore on one condition.
I have to accept it.
Come to church on Sunday?
You don't go to church.
Of course not. I can't stand sitting in a pew, having the Sabbath despoiled by a sermon.
But still you invite me to church?
With John. We have a strong family resemblance too. And if you find a single syllable in me worth writing in a notebook, you'll find paragraphs of it in John. Where I am cantankerous, he is amiable. Where I am thorns and brambles, he is a garden. Where I am a bare hill in winter, he is spring.
He begins to row slowly.
How do you know that your brother would want to take me to church?
Didn't you notice that day in Haywood's meadow when he proposed to you?
He barely spoke to me.
That's why you didn't hear him. You missed the eloquence of his silence.
The boat comes to shore. Henry pulls it onto the bank.
Good day, Mr. Thoreau. Thank you for making transcendentalism so clear.
Did I? If there's anything I missed, just ask Edmund.
What will happen to your school?
I'm going back to it. As a pupil, maybe I can learn from nature. And from John. A pasture can be raucous with flowers and not make a single sound. But a man, presumably wiser than a daffodil, can beat so loudly on the eardrums that nobody hears what he's trying to say. Mr. Balin, what do you think of marriage? That seems to be the majority opinion. Balin, did you hear that? I don't think I've ever felt those waves of sound from the clock tower. That's ridiculous. That a man has to be put in a stone box before he can hear the music of his own village. Thank you, Concord. Thank you for locking me up so I'm free to hear what I've never heard before. You put me behind iron bars and walls 4 feet thick. How do you know that I'm not the free one? The freest man in the world, and you out there are chained to what you have to do tomorrow morning. Speak softly, Concord. I can hear you breathing. Quiet, Bailey. We free men should listen to the cry of prisoners.
There is the projection of a stained glass window. Upstage is a standing row of worshipers. All are dressed Sunday best.
Blessed be the tie that binds our hearts in Christian love, the fellowship of kindred minds is like to that above. Amen.
Tell me, Dr. Emerson, what is the feeling of a clergyman when he hears another pastor in the pulpit?
Relief.
That you don't have to give the sermon?
That's over.
Henry, his shirt unbuttoned, pushes a wheelbarrow full of earth. Blithely, he crosses directly in front of the washed and starched churchgoers.
Oh, David Henry, not on Sunday.
This is Sunday, isn't it? Have all of you been shut up inside on this beautiful morning? What a pity.
We've been feeding our souls.
How selfish of you.
He reaches into the wheelbarrow and sprinkles some of the unseen content at the feet of the churchgoers.
I've been feeding the flora of Concord, bringing loaves and fishes to the lilacs.
Labor on the Sabbath day, and the devils in Massachusetts.
Henry worships in the woods.
Then what do we have churches for?
I sometimes wonder.
Dr. Emerson means that the good Lord is everywhere.
The Lord I know rested on the seventh day.
Why, Deacon Ball here, older than I thought. For you and me, Deacon, the Declaration of Independence has already been written. Young Thoreau has to declare it every day, Sundays included. So what's the harm if he sweats his psalms instead of singing them?
The worshipers disperse.
Oh, David Henry, why did God and I have to make you so peculiar? And please, dear Lord, don't let John get too strange. Perhaps if it isn't too much trouble, you could slip the word yes into that young lady's mouth. Amen.
She said yes? Congratulations. I'm happy for you, John. Are you going to do it right away, or do you have to go through those tribal rites? Posting the bands, all that primitive nonsense?
She said.
She said yes, naturally. She didn't say no?
No, she didn't say no.
What the devil did she say?
She quoted her father,
Heavenly or here?
the one her mother married.
Well, what did old Porridge Face have to say?
He said, he said that marriage to either of the Thoreau brothers was unthinkable.
Amen. The Thoreau brothers never had any intention of marrying her father. But she stood up to him?
I wasn't there. Evidently, she sat down.
So you wasted 6 good summer Sundays taking her to church?
I swear to you, I didn't pray. I kept looking at that face and out of the corner of my eye wondering what she was thinking. I finally realized she wasn't thinking at all.
She's a girl. Who'd want a wife who went around thinking?
When I asked her to marry me, there was a pregnant pause. Well, not pregnant, but a pause. And then she said, oh dear. And at first I thought she was being affectionate, but then I realized she was saying, oh dear.
Then what?
Then she said, why didn't Henry ask me? And I said, if he does, will you say yes? And she said, no, but why doesn't he ask me anyhow?
It's an outrage. She wants to wear both of our scalps on her petticoat strings.
She won't marry you, and she won't marry me, but I think she'd marry us in a minute.
That's carrying Unitarianism too far.
If we were Mohammedans.
Wouldn't help. Muslims take multiple wives, not multiple husbands.
But then, Henry, I destroyed the whole thing. I killed it. I laughed. Not like that. Bigger. Not at her, the dear girl. At us. I almost started the most sacred tradition of the Thoreau brothers. Celibacy.
You're a good-hearted man, John. You saved the girl from marrying a monk.
Or a pair of them.
Who in our brood has ever committed marriage?
Mama and Papa.
Only legally. Except for a couple of slips that brought about you and me. Papa is pure bachelor and Mama is a living pillar of spinsterhood. Thanks to your courageous inaction, the Thoreaus remain a race of maiden aunts and bachelors. All of us. December virgins.
Henry, I never told you about that one April.
Boy, if father can falter, so can you.
It makes for a rather lonely-looking future.
Lonely? Never. Why, when I'm 90 and you're a mere infant of 88, you'll come around and comfort me.
When you're 90, Henry, and I'm a mere infant of 92.
And that's the time we'll both go after the hand of Ellen Sewell.
Henry and John leap about, laughing, as if they were a pair of monogenarians who have been injected with youth juice. Then they fall into each other's arms, laughing helplessly. The light goes black. Dimly, the stained glass window of the church appears, then a cold white spot directly above the coffin.
Unto Almighty God we commend the soul of our brother departed, John Thoreau, and we commit his body to the ground, in sure and certain hope of the resurrection unto eternal life. Let us pray.
4 black-coated townspeople carry off the casket.
David Henry, pray with me.
Our Father,
which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come.
I can't, Mother. I can't pray.
It helps.
Does it? I prayed before. What good did it do?
We should pray for John's soul.
John's soul can take care of itself.
We should pray for understanding.
I understand. God has stopped listening, Mother. If you ever did listen, what kind of God would fail to see the godliness in John? I can't pray to him. Mother, pray for both your sons.
What happened?
He died.
I was in Winthrop. I didn't even hear about it until after the funeral.
We managed.
Didn't anybody know beforehand?
What do you want? A medical report? To feed a morbid curiosity?
Even though I couldn't marry him.
Couldn't you? Well, that's your business.
Henry, don't be so selfish with your sorrow. I care too.
He had a glamorous death. Like the knights of the Table Round who slashed at each other with rusty swords until they had all died of blood poisoning.
I don't understand.
John, 3 months ago, happened to think of something very funny while he was shaving. He burst out laughing and cut himself. The razor was old and vicious, and it despised the blood in his veins. And so, would you like the details? The spasms, the retching, the murderous ineptitude of doctors, the paralysis of the tongue, the choking, the clamping of the jaw, the blood-black face, the eyes pleading for oxygen, and...
Henry!
If the lightning bolt had struck him, that might have been worthy of the size of the man. But a nick in the finger from a dull razor, what an indignity. What kind of God would drain away such youth and energy and laughter? A sneak attack from the Almighty. You plagued Job, but you spared him. Why couldn't you have been as fair with John?
I wonder if God lets us be hurt so we can learn to transcend the pain. In the boat, I didn't understand really, but is it possible, Henry, that even though he stopped living, John continues to be?
The light falls away. Another light picks up Waldo in the study. Lydian stands behind him.
Well, what sort of work would you like to do?
Anything. I wish to use my hands.
And what about your head?
It could be useful. For burrowing, perhaps. I could beat it into a plowshare. It might be a better tool than it's been for thinking.
You're giving up thinking.
For this lifetime, yes.
We could certainly use a handyman, Lydian. Mrs. Emerson will assure you of that. Of all God's creatures, I'm the least handy of men. My skill at carpentry starts at cutting cheese.
There's a great deal that needs doing. The wall by the back meadow needs mending.
I am a mason.
You are?
No, of course. I'm not a mason, but I do masonry.
The weeds are at war with the marigolds. And the last time I looked, the weeds were winning.
They're doomed. Being a weed myself, I infiltrate their ranks.
What about children, Mr. Thoreau?
What about them?
You've had experience with them?
Well, I was a child once myself, briefly.
It would be so good for Edward to have someone who could take him boating and hiking. Dr. Emerson has so little time to be a father. He's so occupied with his lectures and writing.
When I'm with your son, Dr. Emerson, I might turn my brain back on. Temporarily.
I think this might prove to be a very good arrangement. Of course, there's the matter of compensation.
I've been paid. With something far more extraordinary than money, and more valuable. The words you fling into an audience from the lecture platform, you never know what happens to them, do you? No more than a Roman emperor knew that what happened to the coins he scattered to the crowd as he rode through the streets.
The Roman emperors were trying to buy popularity.
and the poor fellows only had gold. No wonder Rome fell. When I sat on the grass at Harvard Yard and heard you speak for the first time, I was at the very edge of the assembly, but I think I caught more coins than the crowd at the wheels of your chariot.
This may be interesting, having a Harvard man as handyman. I'm vain, of necessity. I'm not as lucky as the Caesars. I have to mint all my own coins. So a man sits at his desk and doubts constantly. Is it gold or is it tin?
I apologize. It was a faulty metaphor. Money is merely money. You can never spend a thought. It still belongs to you, though it makes other men rich.
We were thinking, Mr. Thoreau. Incidentally, if we're going to have you around here, you and your hands and your head, I can't possibly go on calling you Mr. Thoreau. Your mother calls you David, I believe.
I call myself Henry.
My mother called me Ralph. You may call me Waldo. And Lydian, of course, is Lydian. And Edward, where's Edward? Edward!
It's important, I think, for you to meet Edward, to be sure that you two are companionable.
Why should it be?
Yes, sir?
A firm handshake, Edward, for Mr. Thoreau. You're going to be extremely good friends.
I don't see why not.
How do you, sir?
Isn't it nice, Edward, having a new member of the family?
Yes, ma'am.
But we can't expect Henry to work for the same munificent salary we pay Edward, which is nothing.
Not true. Every Saturday morning, wet or fair, Edward gets a shiny new dime,
I do?
which I promptly put in the bank.
Some weeks he's overpaid.
That will be all, Edward. Back to your studies.
Yes, Father.
If it will make you feel better, I will take the same pay as Edward and try to be worth it.
Henry, you're not a very good businessman.
I'm not a businessman at all. If you don't pay me a regular salary, then I won't feel obliged to keep regular hours. I love a broad margin to my life. But I assure you the work will be done.
Then you must have weekly wages.
But must it be money? Could it be... How far does it extend? Your back meadow?
To the woods.
Including the woods?
A section of it. To the shore of the pond.
Perhaps someday, if my work has been useful to you and if we remain friends, I may ask you for a bit of your woods. A small square. No bigger than this room. Not as a gift. I don't want to own it. Simply an understanding between friends who know that the land really belongs to the woodchucks anyhow.
What will you do with it?
I'm not quite sure. It's an idea I have. An experiment.
Good thinking, Henry. You're planning way up ahead for your retirement.
Retirement. What an absurd idea. Why spend the best part of your life earning money so that you can enjoy a questionable liberty during the least valuable part of it? Why work like a dog so you can pant for a moment or two before you die?
Carlyle told me about an Englishman who went off to India. Inja, he called it. To make a huge fortune so that he could come back to the lake country and live the life of a poet.
If there was a poem in him, he should have rushed straight up to his garret.
He should have. He died in the Punjab. Immensely wealthy, but without a sonnet to his name.
Can Henry have his parcel of woods? For his experiment?
Well, I don't know what kind of experiment you have in mind, but if the woodchucks don't object, why should I?
Thank you, Dr.
Waldo.
Wolf.
I don't really have time to make a list of all the things that need doing. Lydian, could you go into the details of Henry? Various things that...
Don't make a list. Things will tell me what needs to be done.
Oh, what a relief. The hell of having people help you is that they are constantly completing what you have gave them to do. And they come back knocking on your door saying, what shall I do next? Always when you are in the midst of doing what you yourself should be doing next.
I respect a man's privacy. I'll never knock at the door of your study.
Don't be too much a stranger, Henry. I might interrupt your work now and then and ask you to help me mend a cracked wall or pull a few weeds in the lecture I'm writing.
I'm not a polite man. I'll be as frank with you as I am with the back meadow.
Not many people will understand that young man. He doesn't want anything.
Perhaps he wants too much.